Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council regular meeting of August 25th, 2020. We're calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Newington Town Council. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll begin with roll call, please. Susan, if you would.
Councilor Annis. Councilor Braverman.
Here.
Councilor Budraco.
Here.
Councilor Camillo.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Mankey.
Here.
Councilor Minor.
Here.
Councilor Nagel.
Here.
Mayor Del Pino.
Here.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. So just so everyone knows, Councilor Annis had something scheduled this evening that she was unable to attend. She let us know in advance, and I'm sure she's tuning in to see where we're at. The next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Mankey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Camillo. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0 with Councilor Annis absent. The next item on the agenda is public participation. And the public may participate through the Zoom app. If you are in the app, you can use the raise hand function in the participants window to let me know that you'd like to be recognized. And if you are calling in, you can use the *9 function in order to raise your hand so that you can be recognized. I do see one attendee who has her hand raised. Let me just get in there and unmute the microphone for her. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Miss Miltz, are you there? You're still muted. Can you try to unmute on your end?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay, hi Beth, how are you and everybody else?
I'm well. Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name is Habital Milk and my address is 168 Nicholson Street. And I have a couple of questions. I know we're limited in the amount of time that we can speak, but I'm wondering, I'm assuming that this town, like everybody else, has laid off or furloughed people. Yet my tax bill for the year, this year, is not even $20 less than last year. So I kind of want to know, where is my money going? Because if money was not used because people were furloughed, there should have been money that should have been moved to this year's budget. I also really am very concerned with the extremely irresponsible spending on town buildings. The town of Glastonbury, a few years before us, they had a median household income for 4 people of $124,000 a year, whereas Newington had at the time $75,000 a year. Yet their town hall was built for $10 million. Ours was more than $28 million. Rocky Hill, that has a median household income a little bit higher than ours, built theirs for $13 million. Now I'm hearing that you want to renovate one school for $35 million. And I'm hearing that you want to build a pool for $20 million, or I don't, like, where are these numbers coming from? I as somebody that has been in the financial industry for many years, and on a large scale does renovations of small rental properties, not commercial size buildings, I don't understand where you get these numbers, and I don't understand how there's such what seems to me, and I may be wrong, such misuse of my as a taxpayer's money and everybody else here. So I really want to understand that. And my last comment is to the town manager. This is my third town manager since I bought my house. And this is the third one that is being disrespectful towards town residents that own property and pay his taxes. I sent you, is Keith there? I sent an email to Beth that was forwarded to you with a complaint about a director of this in the town. Got no response for about 6 weeks. Sent another complaint and added a few other items that I would have liked to see in that particular department. Got a response from the HR only about the additional items. However, the inappropriate, in my opinion, behavior of a director in this town was never addressed. It's been 5 months. You get paid to do a job. I expect an answer. That's all I got.
Thank you, Habital.
Will some of my things be addressed during this meeting?
If not, we will email you. If there are answers to come, they will come during the council comment section of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have another member of the public that is, looks like Ms. Lyons.
You're
Ms. Lyons,
muted.
you need to unmute because I'm having no success doing that. There we go. Are you there?
I think so, with this new *6 thing that I have to do and try to listen and see what's going on. I am here. Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I'm just a little curious, and I have not been as faithful as in the past in watching the town council meetings, and I have not followed the Mill Pond Park committee at all, to be quite honest. But I just had a question. How I had heard that it went from being just a regular pool to being a covered pool, all-season pool, and I know that that did not pass through the committee, but I'd like to know if it ever came to the town council for discussion prior to it going to the committee. I find it odd or unusual that you start talking about a committee at the town council level and then it takes on a life of its own somewhere else. The other thing, too, is now again with Anna Reynolds, and I know the public hearing is on Thursday, and I hope to participate in that. But I'm seeing on Facebook a place where I've heard several times at town council meetings that the town business is not discussed on Facebook, but I've heard or seen requests for input from the public at this public hearing on Anna Reynolds. I just, is that something new that we're doing? I just, like I say, I haven't been watching. I find a couple of things that I've seen in the last week or two a little bit unusual, so I'd just like to know what the process is now. And that would be it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Just give it a second. I'll see if there's anyone else raising their hands. And I don't see anyone else, so we will move on now to, did anyone have any email correspondence for this meeting? I know we have a bunch for Thursday. Was there anything submitted for tonight? I did not have any. Okay. We'll move on to remarks by councilors on public participation. Go ahead, Councilor Mankey.
Yeah, just maybe our town manager can clarify this, but I don't believe any town employees were furloughed or laid off. Is that correct?
That's correct. None on the general government side. We made other arrangements where we still get the work done, but no layoffs were required.
So therefore, there was no reduction in payroll.
Not through any layoffs or no, there were none.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other council comment? Councilor Mankey?
Sorry, it's me again. The other issue is on the Mill Pond, the covered pool. I don't believe the council was informed of that. That was an issue that went before the building committee for the park, for the pool.
Correct.
This is John Diamond. I'll step in here. Yes, that's true. It came out. We formed a building committee. Somebody had made a comment about, we should have an all year round facility, and it came up only at the building committee, which we discussed it, was available for viewing, and we decided that wasn't the direction to head. We will be meeting again for Mill Pond again on, I believe it's September 14th at 6 p.m. So if you'd like to take a view, we're going to discuss the revised plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
So I just want to acknowledge the concerns by Ms. Mills and Ms. Lyons as well. I think the previous town manager had been very, the economic times were a bit better, shall we say, and there was significant talk about, the low debt that Newington has as a town, and, we can borrow up to $80 million and blah, 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 and let's get going. But 12 months can make a lot of difference. And an awful lot has happened this past year. COVID, for example, the storm that has happened and storms that are going to be coming, plus the fact that, the realities, I know Ms. Lyons is very fond of the wants versus needs, and we've got to start reining some of this in. The economic, the money's not going to be flowing from the state as it did before, and we really have to start. We really have to start living within our means and painfully acknowledge again the reality of where we're living. So I think it's going to be challenging. We'll get through it for sure. But again, some of the grand plans and whatever that different advocates or different coalitions with the town had hoped for different facilities may or may not be able to come to fruition within the next year or two. And we just have to be cognizant of that.
Thank you. Any other council comment? I will address just quickly, Ms. Lyons made reference to a Facebook message or post rather, asking for input. And I will say that I did put a Facebook post up asking for input from the public. And the reason I did that, it's not typical, is that we have a public hearing scheduled. It's on an off night. It's not scheduled with a regular meeting. Oftentimes when it's regarding a specific project or group of people, those people get a message about it, but not the rest of the town. So I wanted to make sure and assure everyone that the entire public was at least able to be notified, knowing that we have this public hearing coming up, and that their input, if we do take action this evening to waive the rules, which I'm hoping we will, to include public input at the meeting. Because it's not an in-person meeting on Thursday, it'll be more difficult for people. So we would like to waive the rules to add, so that their letters could be read into the record and people would have an easier time letting us know how they feel about things. So it's not typical that I would go on Facebook and ask for input, but I think times right now are not typical and the way we're doing business is not typical. And so I did want to make sure the message got out there so that everyone knows they have a voice and they have an easier way to make their opinion known for this public hearing. And that is that they can send an email into the town council at newingtonct.gov address. And that if we do waive the rules this evening, those letters will be read in. So I just wanted to make sure that people had equal access to knowing about that. So that is why the Facebook post went up. I don't see any other council hands up, so we will move on to consideration of old business. And the first item is the health update COVID-19. Mr. Chapman, that's you.
Yes, well, not much has changed since we last spoke. The COVID-19, if you listen to the news, just today they reported that a town in the western part of Connecticut had a severe spike. We have the schools that are going to be opening at least partially. The town hall and other town buildings remain closed at this point. We are having the glass protectors installed in the new town hall this week and next. So there's no change in our position. I know that there are new guidelines if senior centers want to reopen. That's being looked at by the Diane Stone's staff at this time. We're taking it slow. We don't want to open up and then have to close back up. We're hoping that whatever happens over the next couple of weeks will answer our questions one way or the other, whether we can open fully or not. So we're still in a holding pattern.
Okay, thank you. Any council comment or question? Councilor Menke? Oh, you're on mute, Tim.
Has Newington seen a spike at all? I know other towns around have seen spikes, but are we still holding our own or holding steady?
Well, the last report as of today from the health district is that there's about 80 people a day in the district testing positive. There has been, for resident wise, there's been 8 deaths of residents, 11 new positive workers in nursing homes have tested positive. It's not, Newington is holding its own, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. We still have no illnesses with any of our employees, so that's good news.
That's good news.
Yeah, and as we pointed out earlier, none of our people were, terminated or laid off or on furlough. We kept everybody working on different shifts, and it worked very well. And we may go back to that if the COVID-19 situation gets any worse, but right now we're in good shape.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Minor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Keith, if you could see if you can find out from Charles if there is a metrics that he's comfortable with or confident with to allow for in-person meetings. So at least we have a goal set that we're looking towards something. As far as I know, our positivity rate statewide remains at 0.7. So it's not even 1%. And I'm just curious to see what threshold, because I don't see this going away anytime soon.
Yeah, just updated this week right here, the rate is at 0.92. So it's gone up from the 0.7 several weeks ago. It's been creeping up and now it's at 0.92 at this moment. So I will check with Mr. Brown to see what he thinks of going with open meetings and let you all know.
Thank you. I'm just curious to see if he has a metrics that he feels comfortable with, or a prolonged period of time for X amount of time at X rate, to at least have some type of a, something to look forward to or something to look to. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Camillo?
Is it true that with our council and the other members of staff, we exceed the 10 to have a in-person meeting? Is that correct, Keith?
I believe that's still the limit that
Okay.
I'm aware of at this time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Nagel?
Yes, considering in-person meetings, it occurred to me also a factor that our new council chambers would probably be the place that one would have them, if indeed we can inside. And I was wondering, what is the situation involving the council chambers in that particular area with the town hall, let alone the town hall coming in? Are there any estimates as to considering that? Because that will tie into the other aspect that Councilor Minor was asking.
The new town hall council chambers are currently packed in with various boxes for the town clerk, and we're waiting for clearance to start storing material down in the basement. We still have, last time I was down there was still moisture. If we do go to open meetings, then I would say that the conference room on the second level will be where you'll have your meetings until the chamber is completely cleaned of all storage.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, don't forget the component of, being able to live broadcast from these rooms. currently we are not set up to live broadcast from the chamber upstairs, the conference room upstairs. And we certainly don't have any cables run even from the new council. Well, we have cables, but we have no equipment from the new council chambers into NCTV. So even though you could have a live meeting in the conference room, we don't have the facilities to live broadcast it.
That's a valid point. Thanks for reminding us. Yep. All right. I don't see anyone else's hands up, so we'll move on to town hall project update. That's you also, Mr. Chapman, I believe.
Yes, the town hall, as mentioned before, we are fully occupying the town hall except for the gymnasium area that's still being worked on. And there are some questions that I've referred over to the state fire marshal's office through our fire marshal concerning the egress and the bleacher situation. I'm expecting some type of a response in writing tomorrow from the state fire marshal's office. Once I get that, I'll share that information with the council. As far as the rest of the building goes, Paul Boutat, our IT director / facilities director, did a walkthrough today with our representatives from Collier's on a development of a punch list. So that means at this point, there should be a punch list for the town, one for the architect and one for the contractor. We're going to meet tomorrow morning on the town version and make sure that everything is where it should be. And then that'll be presented to the architect and the contractor. As far as other operations go, there's, as I said, they're installing the glass around the counters as we speak, and the panels are now installed in the conference rooms, not in the gymnasium, I don't believe yet. And we continue to, get acclimated and get comfortable.
Okay, great. Any council question or comment? All right, I don't see any, so we'll continue on. The next item under old business is the Homeland Security Grant Program, FFY 2020 Homeland Security Grant Program. We had in our packet a memo with a draft application for our review. We had talked about this at our last meeting. This essentially is a proposed, this agreement is proposed to use federal Homeland Security Grant funds to support 8 regional set-aside projects. The total amount of funds being retained on behalf of local governments, plural, is $1.654 million. The types of projects that it will benefit are regional collaboration, enhancing information and intelligence sharing, and cooperation with federal agencies, including DHS, addressing emergent threats, Capital Metropolitan Medical Response Systems, MMRS, medical preparation and response, and cybersecurity. Citizen Core Program, enhancing cybersecurity and enhancing protection of soft targets and crowded places. So this is an application for us to take part in accessing these funds. You'll see the memorandum of agreement is filled out as a draft in our packet. And there is a resolution also waiting for us for this evening to allow Mr. Chapman as town manager to go ahead and execute the documents on our behalf. So I would like for someone to read the motion in and then we can discuss if there's questions. Councilor Bridger. Sure.
Resolved that the Town of Newington Town Council may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate, and be it further resolved that Keith Chapman, as town manager of the Town of Newington, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Town of Newington, and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. Be it further certified that Keith Chapman now holds the office of town manager and that he has held that office since January 10th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
seconded by Councilor Nagel. All right, now discussion on this item? Any questions, discussion? Councilor Menke?
Just for clarification, this is the grant we apply for every year at this time. And it benefits the district, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. Any other council questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Braverman? Counselor
Braverman,
Braverman?
you're on mute.
Yes.
Counselor Budraco?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue? Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Minor?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono?
Yes,
8-0.
motion passes 8-0 with Councilor Annis absent. We'll continue on. The next item on our agenda is TPZ referral for the former Barber Road. Let me just turn my page here. So in our packet, we have a certificate of action petition as well as a resolution. You will see that at the TPZ meeting of July 14th, I'm sorry, at the town council meeting on July 14th, we had referred the proposed sale of a portion of the former Barber Road to TPZ for their review. The TPZ meeting held on August 12th reviewed the proposed sale and recommended approval of the sale of the property as required under Connecticut General Statute 8-24. We have a copy of the certificate of action here for our review and a resolution as well. You'll see the next item after this would be to set a public hearing for the sale of property if we would like to do that as well. So they're both on our agenda this evening. So the first action is to review the certificate of action from TPZ and to take action on placing that on file. So would someone go ahead and read that motion into the record for us, please? Councilor Menke, thank you.
Resolved, that the Newington Town Council hereby moves to place on file the certificate of action for petition 27-20, section 8-24, referral of proposed sale of former Barber Road received from the Newington Town Planning and Zoning Commission dated August 14th, 2020, a copy of which is attached to this resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Braverman. And discussion on the matter? All right, seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Braverman?
Yes.
Counselor Budraco?
Yes.
Counselor Camillo?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Menke?
Yes.
Counselor Minor?
Yes.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono?
Yes,
8-0.
thank you. Motion passes 8-0. Councilor Annis absent. And we will move on to the next item, which is public hearing for sale of town-owned property, former Barber Road. You'll see in our packet a memo from Mr. Chapman. Mr. Chapman, do you want to review that?
James, would you do that, please?
Certainly. So the process for sale of town-owned property, while we don't have a specific policy, the state does require that any property being sold for in excess of $10,000 requires a public hearing under Connecticut General Statute 7-163E. We can schedule this for September 8th, just prior to our regular meeting, and be able to complete the process of the entire sale of the property and authorize the town manager through the town attorney to have the deed drawn up and recorded for the transfer. Are there any questions on it?
Any questions, anyone? All right, can we have Councilor Menke, go ahead.
As long as I'm on a roll. Resolved, the Newington Town Council hereby moves to schedule a public hearing on September 8th, 2020 at 6:50 p.m. regarding the proposed sale of a portion of former Barber Road.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Camillo. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Braverman?
Yes.
Counselor Budraco?
Yes.
Counselor Pillow,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel, Mayor Del Buono.
Yes, Counselor Nagel had his mic on mute.
Okay, 8-0. I'm assuming.
Counselor Nagel, do you want to
Yes.
vote?
Yes.
Okay, great. So motion passes 8-0. Counselor Annis absent. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on. Next item is, we're moving on to new business now. And it's a little unusual this evening. We have some waiver requests. So we'll start with the first one is a steep grant application. You'll see in your packets for our review, the 2020 STEEP grant program. The application is proposed for improvements to the Senior and Disabled Center. And they're looking specifically to do a window project. There is an application deadline of August 28th, 2020. So there is a request that we waive the rules in order to authorize the submission of the application this evening. Mr. Chapman, do you want to add anything else?
No, I think it kind of spells out, but we have an opportunity to obtain, $128,000 through this grant program that we weren't really aware of until recently. So we recommend that we pursue this and get the windows replaced over at the senior center. It actually falls in line with the COVID-19 requirements that right now our windows in the senior center don't open. Most of them are broken and they're sealed and so forth. So these new windows will be able to be opened up and get fresh air into the building and have air circulation as COVID-19 recommendations are followed.
Okay. Any other council question on the item? Counselor Nagel? Oh, you're on mute, Dave.
There we go. I know the CIP passed on to the council of granting money for window improvements to the senior center. Is this steep application going to make that monies available to go back in CIP? Or is this something to enhance along with what CIP had granted for a project for windows at the senior center?
The grant itself is a matching grant, so we have to spend at least $128,000 of town money to obtain the $128,000 under this grant. So no, there's not going to be any money going back into the CIP once this work is done.
Was that something whereby the senior center asked for part of the windows to be done and then they were going to apply for the other half later? Am I misunderstanding that? I just wanted to clarify.
The original funding was to do about half the windows in the complex. However, when this grant came along, the opportunity really was to take advantage of it. So we made a decision that if we could get this grant, we should go for all the windows in the senior center and have them all replaced at the same time, with using some of this all of this 128,000. As you may know, we're doing a lot of work over at the center right now, and one of the benefits of having it closed is that we're able to do the parking lot. We're just about ready to resurface that parking lot. So the town has been expending money over time to improve the senior center and the surrounding area. The next phase after these windows will be the HVAC system. But we're doing it, we're phasing it in piecemeal, which seems to be working well for us. So we're going to continue. We'll finish up the parking, we'll do the windows next, and then the HVAC system.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Menke?
I see a motion in our packet to waive the rules. Is the waiving of the rules because this is a time-sensitive grant?
Yes.
And this is due when?
September 28th, August 28th.
August 28th. Yep.
So we need to waive the rules, and I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like to go ahead and read that resolution into the
I would
record?
be more than happy to. Resolved that Newington Town Council, in accordance with the Town Council Rules of Procedure, saves Section 11, voting adopted February 11th, 2020, hereby moves to allow action on new business agenda item. Let's see, 7A, the steep grant application dash senior center improvements.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Braverman. Discussion on waiving the rules? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Sorry. Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budraco,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Mankey,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono.
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Now, by protocol and procedure, when we're waiving the rules, we do need to allow public participation on the matter, but we need to read in the motion or resolution that we're going to take action on. So if someone could read in the next resolution to take action on the steep grant application, and then we'll open it up for public participation. Councilor Nagel?
Okay, thank you. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby approves the foregoing resolution for the 2020 steep grant application, senior center improvements. Resolved, the Keith Chapman, Town Manager be, and hereby is authorized to accept on behalf of the Town of Newington a 2020 Connecticut steep grant in the amount of $128,200 for the Senior and Disabled Center improvements. And further resolved that Keith Chapman, Town Manager, is hereby authorized to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said 2020 steep grant with the state of Connecticut.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We're going to open it up to discussion and public participation on the motion, and then we can also discuss as a council prior to the vote. I see Ms. Lyons has her hand up, so just give me 1 second to get her in the meeting. Ms. Lyons, you can unmute your mic. Okay.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I think it's wonderful that they're going to apply for a grant and be able to do this project 100% rather than 50%. However, once again, I ask whether or not there is someone who is in charge of looking at these grants and determining when they need to come to the council. If I heard correctly, it has to be in by August 28th, and today is August 25th. That's cutting it pretty close. I would hate to have seen us lose out on something if someone wasn't keeping an eye out on these grants. And also, I want to thank Councilor Nagel for asking the question that I always ask, is whether or not the town is going to have to put up matching money for these grants. They all seem fine and good, except sometimes we have to put up the money that we don't have. I'm glad that it's in the CIP. It's a wonderful project, and I hope you go ahead with it and that they do receive it. But once again, I ask who's in charge and why is it so late coming to the council? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons.
If I may, Mayor, right now, because of the COVID-19, the communications between the state, federal, and towns is very weak. There are long delays on a lot of the documents that are to be forwarded. So this, I believe, fell into that category where we didn't receive it until late, and we moved quickly to get it ready to go.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, and I'm grateful that we did move quickly on it, and at least we're able to take action this evening. Any other council comment or question? I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong screen. All right, I don't see any hands up, so if we're good, we'll go to a roll call vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
No, I just want to say that I'm really pleased that the senior center is getting the benefit of some of this state money that's available, some of the grants. Given our demographics of the town, giving the use that the senior center gets. And I think they've been very good stewards of their facility. It's an old building. And they do seem to, when budget times comes along, they do seem to play fair and try and play by the town manager's directions. So for them to maybe get something that they weren't expecting this year. If we do get the grant, is wonderful. So I fully support it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko. Any other council input? Councilor Minor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to echo what Deputy Mayor Bedrejko stated, that it's important to pursue any type of matching grant funds available in any capacity, because at the end of the day, it's completing a project that needs to be done with the assistance of state matching funds to whatever degree they're available. So I also support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Minor. Councilor Menke?
Yeah, I would also support this. It lets us get a project done in 1 year, what normally we planned on taking 2 years to get it done. So it certainly seems to be a win-win situation. We were going to spend the money anyway. It's already budgeted. This just gets us an extra year's worth of work done within the same year. So I think it's a kind of a win-win.
Correct. I agree wholeheartedly. I don't see any other hands raised. I will say I agree, and I know the timeline is tight, and I appreciate everyone being willing to waive the rules this evening. I know that's not something the council likes to do, but in this case, it certainly seems to make sense. So we can go ahead with the roll call vote at this point. Susan?
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Bedrejko,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Pino.
Yes.
8-0.
Wonderful. Motion passes 8-0. Counselor Anist absent. Susan, I want to say thank you to you right now, because I always forget to say thank you. You're doing a lot of work for us in these Zoom meetings, so we'll keep on going, but thank you.
Welcome.
All right, the next item under new business is waiver of Town Council Rules of Procedure, subsection 11, public participation. This is in relation to the public hearing that we have scheduled on August 27th. I alluded to this earlier. Right now, the Town Council Rules of Procedure indicate that people can send in their comments or concerns or input to the council at the prescribed email address, towncouncil@newingtonct.gov. But our rules of procedure say that we will review them as counselors, but they will not be read into the record, merely attached to the minutes. So what we're looking or considering this evening to do is to waive those rules for the purpose of the public hearing this Thursday, the 27th. The public hearing is to review the Anna Reynolds referendum language and consider sending it to referendum. And so we want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to be heard on the matter, and without being able to do an in-person meeting at this point. This was a concession that the council came to try and help make sure that we're able to hear from the public as much as possible on the subject. So that is the reason for it. And the reason for the time-sensitive nature is that the public hearing is this week and we need to consider taking action on this evening. So would someone please volunteer to read in the waiving of the rules piece, which is the first motion in the packet. Councilor Menke.
Resolved, the Newington Town Council, in accordance with the Town Council Rules of Procedures, subsection 11, voting, adopted February 11, 2020, hereby moves to allow action on new business agenda item 7B to waive the Town Council Rules of Procedures, section 11, public participation.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, let's correct that to the revised motion.
I'm sorry. You did revise one. I just read it off the thing here. My fault.
Should just be section 10, public participation.
Yeah, section 10, if I can amend it to be section 10, public participation. I apologize. I know you got it to me in time, and I went and read the wrong one anyway.
Thank you, Councilor Menke. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Braverman.
Okay.
All right, discussion on this. Councilor Menke?
Yeah, again, I think this is unusual to have a public hearing in this format. We certainly would all prefer something in person for the COVID crisis. So I think this is an attempt to get more public participation and get their comments, people's comments on the record. I can assure you from my own sense, though, that whenever I get a letter from the public, I always read it. So they're always read by the counselors, I'm sure. But this would just let those people to make actually get it actually read into the record officially. All those letters that come in are put on the record anyway, but it's just an effort to make this more this public hearing more in line with the crisis we're finding ourselves in.
Right. And just a point of clarification, so everyone understands if they're watching, it's not that you can only email us. That's just one available avenue, but people are still able to participate in the meeting through Zoom in the normal fashion. It's just that we understand that for some people that's not easy. So we're trying to give them another avenue to get their thoughts in the record. Councilor Minor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, I did notice a few of the emails that had sent in did not include full names and addresses, just to make sure that in order to be included in the record, to make sure that information is within the email so we can include them. And I also agree that this is important to allow just one more avenue for people to weigh in with their opinions on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I did notice too, we usually ask people to request that it be read into the record. So I'm going to try to respond to the emails that we've gotten thus far and make sure that people know that they have to request that it be read in if it was not included in their email, so that everybody is on the same page with that. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko.
I'm glad that we are willing to make this modification in the way we do business, because obviously this is a topic of high interest within the town. And I do believe that had it been business as usual and a normal public hearing, I do believe we would have had to move it to a bigger facility. And these people who are writing in would have been there in person. So I thank everybody for being willing to accommodate this unusual method of participation.
Councilor Nagel.
Yes, I agree that I think that this is very appropriate given the circumstances that we're in and the way we're able to meet or not meet to allow this exception to happen. This may be jumping the gun and may have to do with the next resolution, but I think we should be clear in terms of when and how close to our meeting for the public hearing the email communications can be sent. I believe in the present rules, there is a deadline by which they need to be sent for them to be included on the record. If we could have a clarification for that. And if it's too soon to ask that question, I'll just re-ask it when we get to the next resolution.
Yeah, no, that's a valid question, but you're right. Let's vote on the waiving because that's on the table now, and then we can go on and discuss further and have public participation because we are waiving. So Susan, can we do a roll call vote on the motion on the table, please?
Yes, Councilor Braverman,
Yes.
Councilor Bedrejko,
Yes.
Councilor Camillo,
Yes.
Councilor Donahue,
Yes.
Councilor Menke,
Yes.
Councilor Minor,
Yes.
Councilor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono,
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 8-0. Councilor Annis absent. So we are going to move on. The next resolution is the one that will actually allow us to go ahead with this. So who can read that in for me? Councilor Nagel, thank you.
You're welcome. Resolved that the Newington Town Council hereby moves to waive the Town Council Rules of Procedure, Section 10, public participation, if that's correct, to allow for email communications to be received and read into the record during the August 27th, 2020 public hearing regarding the Anna Reynolds Elementary School renovation project.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Braverman. I'm just wondering, we need to discuss, as Councilor Nagel mentioned, do we want to add to that or amend that to read a deadline of when those communications need to be received by, which typically by council rules is, help me guys, is it 5 o'clock the day previous?
I think it was 24 hours in advance. We changed it to.
24 hours.
Yes, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. So it would be 5 o'clock tomorrow that we would expect them in by. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, it does, especially when you have to read them and organize them and everything else.
So Councilor Nagel, would you amend your motion to include that deadline?
I,
Excuse me, Mayor, weren't you supposed to have public participation after?
During this conversation, yes, before we take the vote.
Okay.
Yep, we waived the rules to take action, and now we read this resolution in, and then we have public participation on that. So I will go ahead and do that. Yep. But let's get the resolution right before we open it up. Thank you.
can I just say, in order to do that, to amend it to say that emails can be received no more than 20, can be included no more prior to 24 hours of the meeting itself.
Seeing it's a single action, can we just say that, emails must be received by August 26th at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, that's good.
That works for me too. I said that.
That's what I thought I heard, Dave. I was just paraphrasing.
Thank you for
Councilor
reading my
Nagel,
mind.
you're amending your motion to read that they would be in email communications to be received and read into the record during the August 27th, 2020 public hearing must be received by August 26th at 5 p.m.
Yes, thank you. You have a good memory.
Perfect. And the second was Councilor Braverman. Will you second the amendment? Will you?
I support the amendment.
Okay. All right. So now we have the motion on the table. I think we've got it right. We're going to go to our attendees, and I see Ms. Lyons has her hand up, so I'm going to have her go ahead. Ms. Lyons, are you there?
Yes, I had to hit the *6, and we're a little bit behind on our audio here on the phone. Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. I'm very much in favor of you waiving the rules to allow the emails to be read into the record. I was not a fan of you changing the rules not to read them into the record. I think that if a person takes the time to write a town councilor or the entire town council, that it should be shared at the meetings. I know it's in your rules and regulations that it is not, but I think that might be something I would hope that you would revisit the next time you have a change in your rules. That being said, I also think people should start getting used to participating by Zoom. At 75 years old, because I was interested enough, I found out how to get in and participate in these meetings. The younger folks that have the children in that school, I'm sure have the capability of doing that, and I would hope that others that are opposed to it will also find a way to get in and be heard. But I do appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's a good idea, saying that we can't meet in person, that you allow them to be read into the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Councilor Mankey.
Yes, I just would agree that I think this is, as I said before, unusual times, and I think this is a step to try to accommodate everybody who may want to speak on this issue.
Mm-hmm. Any other council comment? All right, we'll go ahead with the roll call vote on this, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd just like to note, we do have 2 public participations during that special meeting, and we do want to make sure that the public is aware that they only are able to speak once, whether it's by email or in person.
Okay.
We do want to make
Yes.
sure that that is known.
Thank you. So for the public's knowledge, if you do send it an email and we read it during public participation, then that would count as your public participation for that meeting. So you can't have both, in other words. Thank you for clarifying and reminding us of that, James.
You're welcome.
Councilor Mankey?
We should also develop some way to actually between now and Thursday to read these, so we know who's reading which ones, and we don't all just go through our. I have all mine saved in a particular folder, but we don't want to duplicate our reading. And I would just point out that to Mrs. Lyons' point of view, again, we do read every letter that comes to us. This was just an effort to try to make the meetings go faster. And I appreciate the fact that when people do write in, it does take time to write a letter sometimes. But at least I, and I'm sure all the other counselors take time to actually read those letters. That's sort of our job, and we take at least I hope we take great efforts to read all those letters that come into us, from whatever format.
Absolutely. Thank you. I did speak with James earlier today. We're working on trying to get those emails that are sent to us so that they can be displayed on the screen during the meeting. And then we as counselors could take turns reading them through the Zoom app and they
That'd
would
be
be
fine.
available on the screen.
That would work.
Okay, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to work that out, but we are working on it. Councilor Donahue?
James, I just want to clarify, in a regular in-person meeting, they can speak at the first public participation and then come back and speak at the second one, right? That's actually how it works. So if they send a letter, they're not allowed to come back in the second public participation and speak again?
They're able to speak once in each public participation section. So we want to make sure that somebody doesn't give you an email and then walk in this aspect virtually and want to speak at the same time. So we're going to try and develop a list to make sure that we can monitor who's coming up each time.
I just wanted to clarify that for my own benefit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we can go ahead with the roll call vote.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budrago,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Mankey,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono.
Yes.
8-0.
Mr. Minor, did you have your hand up and I did not call on you by accident?
I think I got it raised just at the last second. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quick, a clarification to Councilor Donahue's clarification. So if a member of the public submits an email, which will be read in theoretically at public participation 1, that does allow that same member of the public, should they choose to be able to call in for the second round of public participation. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that's correct according to our current council rules.
Okay, just clarifying the clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mankey?
Yes, it would be no different than if someone was there in person and spoke with the first one and then spoke with the second one. It's the same principle. You just can't speak 3 times.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on now. The next item on our agenda is resignations and appointments. I don't believe we have any tonight. Is that correct, Councilor Mankey?
We have none.
And
Correct.
Mr. Minor, you guys have none, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is tax refunds. We have an approval of August 25th, 2020 refunds for overpayment of taxes. Ms. Deputy Mayor Bedrejko, would you please?
Resolved that property tax refunds in the amount of $1,704.10 are hereby approved in the individual amounts and for those named on the requests for refund of an overpayment of taxes certified by the revenue collector, a list of which is attached to this resolution.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Mankey. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote, please.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Budrago,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo, Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Mankey,
Yes.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Buono,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo.
His mic's on mute. Maybe he stepped away. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So motion passes 7-0 with Councilor Annis absent and Mr. Camillo not responding. I don't know how else to characterize that one. He's here. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is minutes of previous meetings. We have the meeting minutes for August 11th, 2020 regular meeting. Would someone move to accept those?
I move to accept the minutes of August 11th, 2020 of the Town Council.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Camillo. Any discussion? Councilor Mankey? Oh, Tim, you're on mute. Tim, you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I was not there at the meeting. I was on vacation, so I will abstain from this vote.
Okay. Any other corrections or discussion regarding the minutes? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call vote, please.
Counselor Braverman,
Yes.
Counselor Bucciarito,
Yes.
Counselor Camillo,
Yes.
Counselor Donahue,
Yes.
Counselor Menke,
Abstain.
Counselor Minor,
Yes.
Counselor Nagel,
Yes.
Mayor Del Piano,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 abstention.
Thank you. And Counselor Ann is absent. Thank you. All right, we will move on to written oral communications from the town manager.
Yes, I would just like to report that the debris cleanup for the town from the storm is basically complete. We still have quite a bit of material down at the transfer station, but I think the crews did a wonderful job with extreme conditions, and now we're back to doing paving, which is what we were doing at the time of the storm when it hit. So I just wanted to congratulate the Parks and Highway crews for the great work that they had done.
Absolutely. I echo that. Incredible job. Counselor Minor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Keith, do you know if we met thresholds for FEMA reimbursement? I know there was some issue as to whether or not we would meet the minimum thresholds. Do you know if that was the case?
We have not got official word back yet. We've submitted all the estimates for all the work that was done and what we anticipate will be done concerning the remaining debris tub grinding at the transfer station. So we should be getting some type of response fairly soon. I will let you know when we do.
Thank you.
Counselor Nagel?
Yes, I have a question for Keith. Well, first of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to the town, the wonderful work that was done by our town members in terms of picking up all that debris. And there were major things all over town, and things look really very good in short order. So thank you again, Keith, and those that were involved in that. My question has to do, since we haven't heard in quite a while about different road projects that the state was going to help fund, grants that we've made, I think specifically of Maple Hill Avenue. Do you have any updates in terms of that or any other projects that we previously have discussed?
Well, I would tell you, we just received the first 50% of the LOSIP money, so we're good to continue doing what we're doing on the roads that we're working on. As far as the Maple Avenue and the Robbins Avenue projects, the Robbins Avenue project is going through a final review. I don't anticipate that we're going to be doing that work this fall, though. I don't think timing wise it'll be in place. And then the Maple Hill Avenue project has been submitted, as well as the two projects, one for the New Britain Avenue, Maple Hill Avenue, and the other one being the Main Street, Stoddard Avenue area. So those are going through the process right now. But again, we're not optimistic based upon the state's financial situation, but we're on the list, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Thank you for the update. I'm sure those in the public who are listening now or will be listening when it's presented on NCTV at another time appreciate getting that update and knowing where we stand for good or not good in terms of all those projects that we've discussed here. Thank you, Keith.
Counselor Minor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one more thing, Keith. With the Eversource response, has there been any initial conversation either with the state or with CCM in terms of their response and what the coordinated efforts were supposed to be? I mean, back after Sandy, the agreements in place were that, we would have pre-staged liaisons on hand and we would have dedicated crews in town to go. And obviously, I don't believe either of that occurred. And I just wanted to see if that conversation has started with Eversource and between the state and the towns to exactly what we're doing before it happens again.
Ironically, I just received a call from our Eversource liaison today that we normally have assigned to us. However, as the storm progressed, she was reassigned to another function. So we were given a new individual that did not contact the town until that Sunday. I've taken a very quiet position on this because I'm not sure what happened and who's the cause of it. I think there's enough blame to go around, but I keep hearing, fingers being pointed in all directions. The bottom line is that they failed miserably, and how much of that is Eversource's responsibility and others, I don't know yet. And I don't think the CCM has taken a strong position either on this at this point. I think the information is still being developed, and once it's finalized, then I think the CCM and CROG and whoever else might want to step in and give their opinions. But as I told the Eversource representative today, I'm not pointing fingers. I don't know what happened. Usually these things have a bigger story behind them that we all know about. So my position is we're done. We've cleaned up, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. And hopefully there'll be communications to not allow this to happen again. But too many stories going around right now as to what really happened.
Well, I think ultimately it falls squarely on Eversource, and basically it's a three-step process when there's a road closure between the fire department, the highway department, and Eversource. And the first step that needs to occur is Eversource needs to deem a line safe and clear before we can touch it as the town. And the fire department is limited in its operations. So it just seemed like there was a complete lag and lack of getting that advanced team out. It's not even necessarily an actual line crew, but it's somebody that has the knowledge and authority of an Eversource employee or sub to say that this line is safe, go ahead and remove the trees.
Right.
And that seemed like it was the biggest hang up from my experience on being around town for upwards of 5 days, that there were still stuff that had not been deemed safe days after the storm had cleared. And to me, that's unacceptable, and that's eerily reminiscent of Superstorm Sandy and what we experienced then. So hopefully they can figure this out and we can get some better information moving forward, so we have a better handle in terms of what you're able to do on the town staff side.
Yeah, I can tell you, I was out at many of the locations like Main Street at Superior. And that was, I believe, must have been Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week. And the trees were still down. The wires were still in the road. And we ended up getting people that didn't even represent Eversource to come over, and that were private contractors who were brought in that came over at our request to verify that those wires were either hot or cold, and actually they were hot at the time. So we were lucky nobody got injured, because kids were riding around on their bikes around the wires and everything else. So it was a mess. Fortunately, no one got hurt in Newington, and there was property damage, but we can replace that type of thing. But not a good situation, but the jury's still out in my mind as to what really happened.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Menke.
Yeah, I would just like to have Keith thank his staff. I think they did an excellent job for what the conditions were. I think they did a great job making cleanup. They did a great job keeping us all safe, and they did a good job making sure that the cleanup after the storm happened. And I appreciate the fact that they went around and picked up the debris and rubbish that was put to the edge of the street by the neighbors. I appreciate that.
We thought it was over, but I think Sunday we had a tree come down on Pine Street that's out of the blue. It just fell down. It survived the storm, but that was it. A couple of days later, it falls down. So
there you go.
Yeah, I'll say that did happen to me with my power pole. So during the storm, it cracked a little bit. They came out, put a new pole in, but never switched over the electric. And then a week after the storm, our tree cleanup was all done. We thought we were all set, and down went the pole. So I think we're still feeling some of the effects of it even now. All right, we will move on now. I don't see any other hands up, so we'll move on to council liaison and committee reports. Deputy Mayor Patrico.
Yes, at the TPC meeting, they decided to keep the public hearing open for one more week. Tomorrow will be I would assume, the final opportunity for the public to comment on the Plan of Conservation and Development 2030 plan. There really has not been a lot of resident comments on it compared to the one 10 years ago. But again, the one 10 years ago, there were a lot more controversial subjects. There was the busway, there was Toll Brothers, or maybe not Toll Brothers, but there was Cedar Mountain Development and whatever. So this plan was reviewed very thoroughly by TPZ. Glenn Chandler, I believe, who was the consultant, met with different commissions who would have input, such as open space, such as conservation. So it seems like a very good plan. The one thing that TPZ had asked for or was wondering about was the Newington Town Council comments or thoughts. Councilor Annis and I had indicated to them that we as a council had all received the report, the draft, shall we say. We had all read it, but we were waiting to see what public comments would be. And there really wasn't any significant public comments. So I'm not sure what we want to do as a council. I'm assuming that we feel it was a well-drafted plan, that TPC did a good job, that we all reviewed it. I don't believe the couple times we had it on our agenda, none of us had really any significant comments. So I'm assuming we can tell them that we don't really have anything substantial or any concerns with the draft as it stands.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to characterize it. We've had it on our agenda a few times. There were no significant concerns or questions brought forward by council members. We did want to wait for that public hearing to happen, and I know they're having another one, but unless something changes drastically at the public hearing or public forum that people bring up, I think the council was okay with the draft that was presented. Councilor Minor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on the liaison report for the Board of Fire Commissioners, effective August 21st, Chief Chris Schroeder retired from the Newington Fire Department after 46 and a half years of service to the town. I personally would like to thank him for his years of service to the department, and had it not been for my interaction with him in 2006, I probably would have never joined the department, which I did at that time. And I would wish him well in his retirement and the opportunity to enjoy his grandkids and his family a little bit and not have to wake up in the middle of the night anymore. So I would like to thank him again for his 46 and a half years of service.
Thank you, Councilor Minor. Yes, it's really an incredible thing to hear, 46 and a half years. That's just amazing to think of all those volunteer hours he gave to this town. I'm hoping this council will be able to honor him perhaps in the future a little more formally than just this. But I'm glad you brought it to our attention as part of your report, and we can make sure we honor him at a future council meeting as well.
As one quick addition, Assistant Chief Tom LaPierre is the acting fire chief until such time as the Board of Fire Commissioners goes through the process of appointing a permanent replacement for the position.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Any other council liaison or committee reports? Councilor Donahue?
Yeah, I just want to remind people that the next Mill Pond committee meeting is 14th of September at 6 o'clock. It'll be Zoomed and calling, whatever we need to do.
Okay, great. Thank you for that reminder. All right, I don't see anyone else with their hand up, so we'll continue on. The next item is public participation. Any member of the public may participate. If you're in the Zoom app, you can raise your hand in the participants window. And if you are calling in, you can use the *9 function. I see Ms. Lyons first, so I'm going to click on that. And Ms. Lyons, you can unmute and go ahead.
Okay, I'm still here. Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Thank you, Mr. Donahue, for giving me the time of the next Mill Pond Pool Committee meeting. Maybe at that meeting I can ask my question once again, how the covered pool, even though it didn't happen, how it got to be, where did it come from? But in any case, as far as this public hearing that's coming up, again, I have a problem myself trying to follow things on Facebook. I've taken to not following Facebook, given that it's the season of elections again. But I did, like I say, happen to see Mayor Del Buono's post. I saw the Board of Ed member, Mr. Branda's post, and I just myself feel is putting it onto Facebook puts a lot of things out there that people have questions about, and it starts a conversation that sometimes people don't get the right information, they get misinformation. I, for one, have been watching this project since it started out at $14 million, and now it's up to $35 million. Question I'd like answered is, do we have any reports from the facilities consultants that we engaged to look at our facilities and see what needs to be done in the various town-owned buildings? I just think that's something I'd like to know about. But anyway, I think that once again, I'm not has been as diligent in attendance, and it's my own fault for not being informed, but I think I'm one of the more informed around, and I'm still confused as to what may happen on Thursday night. Once you have your public hearing, you're going to decide whether or not to send it to referendum. Is that what the outcome is going to be? Is that why we're pushing to get a lot of people to come out and give you their opinions on what they want to see done? All right, that's about it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. We have one other person with, let me just click over, takes 1 second. I believe Ms. Miltz is with us. You can unmute Ms. Miltz if you're available there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, this is Habital Miltz again, 168 Nicholson Street. Thank you, Tim, for clarifying that none of the employees were furloughed. I have a follow-up question for that. So everybody worked there full-time, not reduced hours, including, for example, the cafeteria staff in the school, the cafeteria staff in the senior center, the bus drivers. I just would like to know that. Gail, thank you for talking about the 80 million and saying that maybe it needs to be revisited if that's something that should be spent. I don't know how other people manage their finances and their house, but many town buildings have not been updated. And I don't believe that most people, when they do renovate anything in their house, they renovate all at once unless they flip a house to sell it. And that's, not usually something that is being done for your own house. And just because you have a line of up to $80 million doesn't mean that all of that needs to be spent. We need a little bit more fiscal responsibility. I've been in this town for 7.5 years, and all I see is lack of fiscal responsibility. And then my last comment that I wasn't able to squeeze in a little bit earlier, and this is something that I have brought up to town council meetings in the past when I used to be more participate more often. So I am an unaffiliated voter. I vote for both sides. I talk to the candidates and decide who I want to vote for. Because I'm an unaffiliated voter, I cannot be part of a committee. And I'm going to specifically talk about the committee for the town hall. that I know for a fact that some of the people that were on that committee do not own property in town and don't have skin in the game. And I find that to be very disturbing, that the $28 million is in no way their responsibility. Some of the people that were on that committee have no understanding of finances, no understanding of any type of construction. They were just appointed because they belong to they're affiliated with one of the parties. And I really would like to have a change here, that somebody, I'm not saying that I necessarily want to be on the committee, but finances is my industry. I am a real estate investor, even though it's not commercial. And I can't be on that committee, and I own property in town, and I can't be on that committee, whereas somebody that doesn't understand anything to do with, not being disrespectful, maybe they're great at whatever it is that they're doing, but they don't understand anything to do with finances or construction, and don't own property in town, yet they can be on a committee that puts us in that kind of debt just because they belong to a party. So I would like to see if the town council is open to have people that are not affiliated with a party still join committees of any sort in town. And that's it for my second part of the participation. I'm very happy that you're doing something with the senior center. I think that the senior center definitely deserves some attention. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other public participation, so we'll move on now to remarks by councilors. I would just like to address a couple of things first. For Ms. Meltz, the unaffiliated voters are able to serve on committees, but you do have to be appointed by one of the two town committees, so either the Democratic or the Republican. I will say both of those committees have in the past appointed unaffiliated people to positions. So you would have to express interest to those two committees if you wanted to be put on a committee. In fact, sometimes the Republican Town Committee can appoint a Democrat, or a Democrat can appoint, there is no restriction on that. It's just that the candidates for those committees do come from those two organizations. So you can certainly let them know if you're interested in anything. In terms of the furlough and layoff workers, I don't know, Mr. Chapman, if you're comfortable answering that question now, but I know from the school perspective, Ms. Miltz, you'd have to reach out to them for the specifics of their furlough or layoffs. So in terms of bus drivers and cafeteria workers and that kind of thing on the school board side, you'd have to reach out to the Board of Ed or the superintendent of schools for that information. I know they did use at least some of their bus drivers for delivering food and lunches to our needy families or families that qualified for that. Mr. Chapman, do you have anything else to add to that?
Just that the senior center bus drivers have been working. They're delivering food to those that are homebound. The employees that were scheduled to work, we'll say, at the parks for the months of June early on, they were kept on the payroll, and their contracts ended. When the contracts end, then they were taken off because there was no guarantees that they would work there. As far as the full-time employees go for the town side, the parks and highway grounds employees were put on a 7-day work schedule, 3.5 days each, 10 hours a day, one day being 5 hours. So we were very successful there. The police department kept with their normal schedule. So we were fortunate. We have good employees, and everybody stepped up to the plate. And we're now back to normal scheduling, but as pointed out, there's things like in the parks that we're not doing, so we didn't bring back as many employees for the summer as we normally would. But overall, we tried to keep everybody whole during this pandemic, and it worked pretty well.
Thank you for that. And then just to address one more comment by Ms. Lyons, she had asked about the procedure for Thursday. So there is the public hearing where it really is just our opportunity to hear from the public. And we will be reading the letters into the record that we receive by tomorrow's deadline of 5 p.m. But following the public hearing, there will be a special meeting of the town council for the purpose of discussion of the public hearing comments, as well as adopting the bond ordinance and setting the referendum date. And there will be a vote taken on that matter, whether to move that forward or not. So that is the procedure. So yes, we are looking for public input because the purpose after the public hearing is to consider moving that forward to referendum. Councilor Bedrejko.
Yes, I just want to further comment on Ms. Milt's inquiry regarding membership on committees. I know I do believe that both town committees, there are vacancies on different commissions. So I would encourage, I mean, you probably know this, but I would encourage you to look on the town website, see all the commissions that are available, and there's memberships as well as vacancy listings on there. And if you have a specific area of expertise or interest, to contact either party, the chairperson, or they may have a nominating committee person, and express your interests, send a little brief bio. If there's a particular vacancy, do that, or like I said, just express your interest in particular areas and ask them to keep you in mind as vacancies occur. And for participation, particularly by new members of the public, is welcome to get some new ideas out there, because I know particularly, well, on the Republican side, we have had sometimes issues in the past because people don't to be a good commission member or committee member, it takes time and research, and it would be great to have somebody who's willing to put in both, as well as have the knowledge. So I encourage Ms. Miltz, as well as anybody out there who's listening, to, that's a great way to get involved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bedrejko. Councilor Minor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of quick follow-ups to Ms. Milt's comments. First and foremost would be the perception that in order to be on a committee or commission, that one needs to own property in town. That, from my understanding, is not correct. The only prerequisite is that the party is a registered voter within the town of Newington. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that is my understanding.
Okay, so that was just a clarification there, that you don't necessarily need to own property, but you need to be a registered voter within the town. And the second being, the Board of Education did have a large surplus that was returned to the town general fund, and that was all addressed and adjusted during the final budget deliberations. So there were substantial funds that were returned to the general fund. I don't have those numbers specifically at hand, but they were sizable because of their layoffs, that they did not have a lot of staff on hand to address what they were doing with their budgets. So that was the other thing I just wanted to point out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minor. Anyone else? I do believe the Board of Ed returned 1.5 million to the general fund this year, but they did also in May spend down an additional over 5 million that was left to get some items in there that were not included in their initial budgeting, just so we understand that. Any other council comment or question? Ms. Braverman?
Yes, Mayor. I attended the Board of Education's hybrid convocation yesterday. It was, I'm not a big fan of online big events, but it was well done. Mark Brackett from Yale gave a great talk. And, Newington, Dr. Brummett was terrific as usual. This, people were in the auditorium, faculty sitting properly distanced, but it was a good event, definitely.
Great, thank you for that update. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will move on to a motion to adjourn. Who would like to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Mankey, seconded by Councilor Donahue. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone. We stand adjourned at 8:29 PM. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
You as well. See you all on Thursday.
Okay. Okay.